Hey there, welcome to The Uplift. We got a great show for you, a great cast of characters as well. Among them, a blind race car driver whose incredible accomplishment on the track inspired a young boy who is also coping with life as a blind person. And an animal rescue that rallied the troops to make sure shelter cats and dogs had families to spend Thanksgiving with. Plus, David Begnaud meets a real-life guardian angel, emphasis on guardian, a former prison guard who was fired after performing a selfless act of kindness. Don't worry, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. All that coming up. You know what you're watching, The Uplift. Hey there, I'm Tony DeCopel, and this is The Uplift, the show that lifts you up for at least the next 30 minutes. You and me as well, and we're going to begin here with a story from Steve Hartman's Kindness 101 series. The theme this time is vision. The inspiration, Steve's nephew, Ted, who just happens to be blind.
Good morning. I'm here with my daughter and sidekick, Meryl.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our lesson on vision.
And for a definition, we go now to my son, Emmett, over at the dictionary desk.
Good morning. So for the purposes of this lesson, I'm defining vision as the power to see into the future.
Ooh, sounds magical. Almost like having your own personal crystal ball.
That's so cool.
I did do that.
With vision, you're able to look past whatever problems you have in front of you today to the person that you can become. A vision of your future. And who better to teach us about vision than a person who is blind? In this story, pulled from our archive, we see how getting through even your darkest hour is possible with good vision. I chose to tell this story mainly for an audience of one.
Yes.
This 12-year-old named Ted.
Yes.
Ted is my nephew, and he says sometimes his blindness feels insurmountable.
I see.
I thought like I was doomed. That does sound a little immature, but...
A woe is me kind of feeling?
Yes. I really want to be like everybody else sometimes, you know.
And that's why, when I heard about this drag racer attempting to set a new world speed record, I thought Ted and others like him had to meet the driver. In 2012, Dan Parker of Columbus, Georgia, got in a crash. He suffered a traumatic brain injury so severe it blinded him.
I never imagined I'd be back in the seat of a race car. But I've been a racer my whole life. I just had to figure out another way to do it.
A machinist by trade, Dan got adaptive equipment so he could make parts. And then designed this entire race car.
That just amazes me. What does he look like?
Mustache and a beard?
I don't have a mustache.
You have a mustache?
See? Whiskers? I hope nobody sees them.
Oh, don't worry about it. That won't be an issue. Anyway, back to our story.
Dan was attempting to set the Guinness record for fastest car driven blindfolded. Of course, no blindfold was needed, but he did have a special audio guidance system and, for safety purposes, a sighted driver next to him, hands hovering over the steering wheel just in case. It wasn't necessary. Dan went 211 miles an hour, set a record, and more importantly, an example.
Ted, I want you to know that blindness is not what is stopping you. Surround yourself with believers and go for your dreams. You can make excuses or make it happen.
New Guinness World Records title.
Dan says inspiring the Teds of the world is the main reason he did this. And if my nephew is any indication, it was well worth the drive.
If you can do that, well then I think I could easily pursue my dream. Wait, what about flying and plane?
That's exactly what I wanted to come from this.
Joining us now, my nephew Ted. Welcome to Kindness 101.
It's great to be here.
How's your facial hair coming, Ted?
Bro, it's great. I mean, it's
It
nice
looks
and
like
long.
you shaved.
I did shave.
I should also mention that after that story first aired, you got an offer.
Yes, I got an invitation by a pilot. He was very generous.
You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay, pull back.
What was that like?
So fun. It was amazing.
We're flying.
It's like driving a car.
Well, wait, have you driven a car before?
When I was younger, I did go down your driveway on a...
This is news to me.
Well, I had my mom's help, but you know.
Oh, okay.
So how have these examples and experiences changed your thinking?
Like, it's opened the door and shown me everything that's possible in this world.
What do you feel like you can't do now?
What I can't do is be pessimistic.
Ted, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, it's been a great pleasure. Great pleasure.
You know, people always say to live in the moment, and that's great when things are going well. But when times are tough, it's just as important not to dwell, to look past the present, using not your eyes, but your vision. We'll see you next time.
Until then, stay kind.
No one better than Steve Hartman. Up next, visit the shelter that worked to make sure that rescue cats and dogs had a family to spend Thanksgiving with. We take you now to an animal shelter in Virginia that rallied the troops to make sure that cats and dogs had a home and a family for Thanksgiving. Here's Caitlin O'Kane.
They say there's no place like home for the holidays, but when everyone goes home, animals in shelters may stay in their cages without families to spend time with. That's why Richmond Animal Care and Control in Virginia fosters out animals each Thanksgiving.
About 9 years ago, and I remember it vividly, and I was thinking about how no one should spend Thanksgiving alone, human or animal. And we sort of dreamed up this program, an idea where we could foster out the animals that were in our shelter to the community for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Director Christy Chips Peters says they usually send dozens of animals to homes for Thanksgiving break. Foster families start picking up pets the Sunday ahead of the holiday and keep them for about 2 weeks. The goal is that some of the fosters find a forever home.
I think that if you are a go with the flow kind of person and you're flexible and you understand that this is a pet that is coming from a shelter environment that may have never lived in a home before, and it may take them some time to adjust, and that you're game to help them do that, I think a positive and can-do attitude is the number one thing that we look for in fosters. Really, it's just somebody that has the commitment and the space in their home and their hearts to just allow these pets to be happy and healthy for the time that they are in their care.
Shelter volunteers stop by to feed the animals during the holiday, but there's nothing like a cozy turkey day at home.
I picked one year and I was like, I can do Thanksgiving dinner because I eat earlier and I can come back and feed the animals, Thanksgiving dinner at night. And I remember doing that and thinking, man, wouldn't it be great if they could all go into a home for Thanksgiving and I wouldn't have to be here tucking them in, giving them their Thanksgiving meal in a cage.
Peters says she hopes the program inspires other shelters to run special foster events for holidays and for pet lovers to volunteer to take in animals in need. Because just like a kid antsy to get out on holiday break, the animals feel the excitement too.
The joy that just falls out of them is contagious, and it's so amazing to watch the matches happen, and the people just light up with joy, and the animals are so excited, and it's just a continuous train of happiness that all of us get to be witness to, and it's just, I can't say enough good things about it. It is the best. It's the best. Just the best.
Coming up in just a moment, poet and painter Frieda Hughes, daughter of renowned writers Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes, tells us how a bird changed her life. Author and poet Frieda Hughes grew up with a pair of world-renowned writers as parents, and she also grew up, however, with a family secret. She recently talked to Anthony Mason about her life and how helping animals changed her life.
It's beautiful, this gate.
Thank you.
When Frieda Hughes moved out into the Welsh countryside, she planned to paint, write poetry, and plant a garden.
A lot of it needs culling. The lilies have gone mad.
But she didn't expect to be adding an aviary.
Say hello.
It's where she keeps her growing family of rescued owls.
You have how many of now?
15.
15 owls.
Yeah, I didn't mean to have 15 owls, and I never intended to have owls.
They include Merlin, Eddie, brothers Charlie and Max, and Widfa, a snowy owl with a damaged wing. But the bird who started it all wasn't an owl. It was George.
I was so smitten with this magpie.
Why?
It's very hard to resist a creature that makes you the center of their life and their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Hughes' latest book, George, a magpie memoir, chronicles her relationship with the bird, who fell from his nest during a storm in 2007. Hughes nursed George back to health.
Everything I did, I'd be cooking, I'd be painting, I'd be writing, George was there. After 2 months, George started to fly properly. He could make the end of the room. I'm going to get it. And he would always fly back to me. There is something really magical when a bird just flies back to you. Not because you're saying, look, you're starving, I've got food. But just because you're you. That's really bewitching.
George was a mischievous magpie.
I'd be sketching him and then he'd fly over, land on the page and be trying to pull the lines off as if they were three-dimensional.
He also liked to play with peas.
He'd pick them up and he'd pace around you, find a gap or a pocket or in the cuff of your sleeve, and he'd start stuffing peas in there. And then he'd look at you saying, okay, now react. So do something, play with me.
Hi there, George, you want to play?
Did you need George in some way?
There's a very good question. Yeah, I think I probably did.
Her marriage was unraveling at the time. But every conversation with Hughes ultimately goes back to her childhood and to her parents.
My father being Ted Hughes and my mother being Sylvia Plath, it was don't talk to your friends at school about the family.
Renowned poets Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath were a literary it couple when in 1963, Plath died by suicide. Young Frieda, who was 2, learned to keep secrets as a child.
Because of my mother dying the way she died, it was my job to be the happy, very level person. And so my secret was often, don't tell anybody when you feel bad.
Why do you think you felt like you needed to be that way?
You know that thing about rescuing animals?
Yes.
I kind of want to save people too, and sometimes from me.
Yeah.
So, I didn't want to be a burden.
That's a lot to carry.
Yeah. As a child, I was very conscious of my father having a tough time.
Her restless father moved constantly. Wherever he went, Hughes writes, my younger brother Nick and I followed, like 2 trailing limbs. Hughes attended a dozen different schools. Her father asked her once if she was angry her mother had taken her own life.
I said, how could I be angry? Because she was in so much mental anguish that she felt she had to go. Why would I be angry with her?
That she left you behind.
Well, I'm very glad she didn't take me with her.
I mean, in any way, do you think you've been trying to work that out?
There's only an understanding that it happened and I have to accept it one way or the other. It's
Right.
how I accept it that is going to affect the way I move on in my life in the future.
Hughes' father died from a heart attack 25 years ago. Her brother would also die by suicide in 2009.
I have bad moments, I have sad moments, and then it is a case of, if I don't pull myself together, who's going to do everything?
Hughes' home in Wales is her antidote to her itinerant childhood, a safe place where she has put down roots.
The tree is spectacular.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's been here for over 250 years. I sort of built the garden around the tree because this was just a field when I came here.
Her house is also her art gallery.
I'm really enjoying doing the rocks at the moment. I love the rocks.
Painting for Hughes is more than therapy.
It's a necessity.
It's a necessity. How?
I don't want to go from the beginning of one year to another without having something physical to show that I actually lived during that year. That's one of my old frames.
If Frieda Hughes seems full of surprises, there's still one more. The woman who raises owls and writes poetry also races motorbikes.
I live among some of the best roads in Great Britain.
There's some pretty scary curves out here, though.
That's why they're lovely roads. You don't want a straight line. Anybody can go in a straight line.
She's the streak that flies through the Welsh countryside. A rider who has learned how to take some of life's trickiest turns.
I feel that I want to live with all the energy that I can muster to the best of my ability, because somebody in my family has to be left to do that. And I think by doing that and doing the best that I can, I honor them.
Beautiful story from Anthony Mason. Coming up in just a moment, the story of a woman who took care of an inmate's baby. She was a prison guard and was fired then from her job as a prison guard, but it turned out all that a blessing in disguise. We want to introduce you now to a woman who lost her job for a selfless act of kindness, despite knowing there would be repercussions. It turned out that she made the right decision. Here's David Begnaud.
You got your bed made up? Got your book bag?
Roberta Bell is the kind of woman who wears her heart on her sleeve.
Hey, my bun, you ready?
Heck, she'd give it away in a heartbeat. She's 58 years old, lives in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and is raising 5 of her 8 grandchildren.
Come on, Jay.
And recently, there was another child who she took care of.
And there was an inmate there that needed assistance, some help. She was pregnant.
Bell met that inmate, Katie Bourgeois, at the Louisiana Transitional Center for Women. It is a prison where Bell worked as a correctional officer.
Situations in her family led her to where she didn't have anyone to really get her baby. And she wanted someone that would just keep the baby until it was her time to get out, because she only had like about 2 months to serve.
Bell says she alerted her supervisor, and he warned her it was a conflict of interest. She says the supervisor later asked her,
"Are you going to still go through with it?" I said, "If the hospital called me to come get that baby, I'm going to get that baby." And he said, "Well, okay, I'm going to have to terminate you."
The way she sees it, the prison gave her a blessing. 1 week after she was fired, Bell got a call. The baby was born.
I started taking pictures. I started snapping pictures. He was so precious. And I put his clothes and stuff on him, and I held him for a little while. They buckled him down in the seatbelt. We left and came home.
And Katie had named him?
Kaysen. And I was so amazed because my grandson's name is Kaysen.
Really?
Yes.
Did that feel like a God wink moment?
It did, and I said, "Lord, this must be you."
As word spread, her living room became loaded with diapers and baby formula.
And when I tell you, David, God provided so much stuff. People came by, agencies called. It was just overwhelming, really, because I couldn't do it by myself. I couldn't. That was part of my ministry that I'm getting ready to start.
Where are you taking me?
To the Serenity House.
Serenity House, as she calls it, is a double-wide trailer in the middle of rural Mississippi that she plans to make a transitional home for women leaving prison.
When do you think you'll have it ready?
I'm hoping it'll be ready before the first of the year. Because them ladies calling me.
I bet they are.
And
you'll be able to house 6 women in here?
Yes.
Okay.
It is one way she plans to continue what she says was best about working at that prison.
You love the job?
Oh, yeah.
Why'd you love it?
I loved it because it gave me a chance to talk to the women and to encourage them and to get them to go into a better direction and to let them know what they have done is bad, but they can do better.
Even with her admirable aspirations, she still had to work. So after she was fired, she took a job sorting cans at a food distributor. But that was only after she stayed home to take care of little Kason.
For 2 months, you raised that baby.
For 2 months, I raised him, yeah. I loved him as he was my own, and I still love him today.
On the 4th of July this year, Katie Bourgeois was released from prison. She went right to Roberta Bell's home to get her son.
She was kind of, you know, a little nervous because he didn't really know her. And she said, he's crying, Miss Bell. I said, well, baby, I said, he's got to get used to you all over again.
Got to meet you, Mama.
Yeah.
Katie said at the time,
I can't thank her enough for everything she's done. He's doing great.
What is the lesson for other people watching this story?
The lesson is, don't be afraid to step out and believe what's in your heart and know that God is going to take care of you.
Even if it's breaking a rule?
Even if it's breaking a rule.
Was it the right thing to do?
Oh, it was definitely the right thing to do. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it.
yes, the prison fired her for it, but the public rewarded her. You see, people everywhere were so touched by this story that they donated $90,000 to the lady with the big heart who rescued that tiny soul, his guardian angel, still moved by the lullaby that brought both of them heavenly peace.
I want to walk in the newness of life. Just let me be a follower of Christ. And he go to sleep. I sang him to sleep.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
And she is singing us off air here. That is our show. I hope it brightened your day and lifted you up. I'm confident it did. If for some reason it didn't, reruns are free. I'm gonna go find some good news.
This episode of The Uplift is presented by the Subaru Share the Love event.